Hello everyone, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 and welcome to another edition of the Superman and Lois Season 2 review series. And today I am going to be talking about episode 10, Bizarros in a Bizarro World, which I have just finished watching. And this episode was absolutely fantastic. And this is one that I've been wanting to see for a really long time now, ever since Bizarro first showed up at the beginning of season 2. There has been lots of questions about why Bizarro is here, what's his connection to Ali, all of these questions and more. What's the inverse world? What's it like? Why is Bizarro so determined to stop Ali? You know, all of those questions finally got answered in this episode, and this was definitely well worth the wait. So I'm going to give a quick recap of what's happened so far, and then we're going to get straight into talking about episode 10. So, what we've seen so far is Ali is looking for this pendant, which apparently gives her the ability to cross over to the other side, to the inverse world. And we've seen Anderson gain superpowers. We saw the two of them meet with each other, and we saw Ali trying to cross over to the other side. Superman went after her, and he disappeared. And we saw Jordan stepping up to becoming a hero, making some rescues. We saw John Henry Irons as Steel doing the rounds, covering for Superman, all the while Superman was missing. And what we saw at the end of episode 9, we saw Superman land on the ground. We don't know where, but it looks like he's in another world. And at the same time, we saw an inverse version of Jonathan Kent show up at the Kent house. And Lois realizes that that's not her son, Jonathan. And that's pretty much how we left episode 9. We kind of left it on the cliffhanger. And this episode pretty much picks up from the end of episode 9. But this time, we actually get to see where Superman is and what he's been doing since he landed on this world, which we now know is Bizarro World. And I thought this was really excellent. They kind of took the concept of everything the opposite to new levels. I mean, they kept some stuff that we know from the comic books, but by and large, they've kind of put their own spin on things, and I quite enjoyed it. And I like how in this episode, which I'll get into in a moment, we see Bizarro before he actually became Bizarro. So that was quite cool. I thought that was quite interesting. So with that all said, let's get straight into it. Let's talk about episode 10, Bizarros in a Bizarro World. So this episode, the way they structured everything was kind of like a series of flashbacks, but we get to see different points of views from all of the inverse versions of Earth One's doppelgangers. So, for example, we saw Bizarro's point of view, we saw Jonathan's point of view, we saw Lois's point of view, we even saw Morgan Edge's point of view. We saw all these different points of views from everyone. And the way they did it was very well done. I don't think I'd ever seen anything like that in quite some time, different points of view from different characters. I think the last time I saw something like that was in an episode of Batman the Animated Series where we saw Harvey Bullock and Renee Montoya and this new rookie cop on the beat all giving their points of views of what really happened the night that the bust didn't go down. So it was very, very different. And, that was quite a unique take on an episode I'd seen. So it was kind of cool that, Superman and Lois did that. So we see here on this inverse world, Bizarro world, whatever you want to call it, we see the inverse world their Earth is square, just like Bizarro World. And it was quite cool when you see Superman landing on this world. Everything's backwards. So when Superman speaks, he was speaking backwards. So I thought that was quite interesting. And everybody knows the red sun affects Superman, so he doesn't have powers, but he still, for some reason, managed to keep some of his powers on this world. But he wasn't completely at full strength. So I thought that was quite interesting. The red sun on this world powers Bizarro, and everything is in reverse. So on their world, Jordan has powers. But in this world, Jordan doesn't have powers. On that world, Jonathan has no powers. But in this world, Jonathan does. And I like the way Jonathan is in this episode. He was kind of like, I don't know, I wouldn't say he was in full on emo mode, so to speak, but you could clearly see he was kind of like a renegade Superboy, like Connor Kent, but the complete opposite. So that was quite interesting as well. And we see in this world Bizarro, he's kind of like a household name. He's kind of like a celebrity. Obviously, Superman in his world, everybody loves and respects him, but he doesn't play up to the celebrity status. But here, Bizarro is a big star. He's got the red carpet, he's got a limo, and everybody loves and worships this guy. And of course, Bizarro loves it. Not saying Superman doesn't. Obviously, he loves to help people and reach out to people in any way, shape, form he can. But you can clearly see here, Bizarro loves the spotlight. He's got a close relationship with Morgan Edge, or as we know him as Tal-Rho. And we learn that Tal-Rho is married to Lana Lang, who's got superpowers. So that was quite insane. And Lois, I thought it was quite interesting that in this episode, the way they did Elizabeth Tulloch's hairstyle was very similar to Sarah Douglas from Superman 1 and 2, like long hair but a little bit shorter, and you see like the fringe is a bit more darker and her hair's a lot more darker, and her clothes as well. It was very similar to the attire that Sarah Douglas wore in Superman 1 and 2 as Ursa. So there were clearly some little clues there. So if anyone remembers that scene, let me know, because I thought that was quite cool to see that. Now, we learn also in this episode why Ali wants to cross over to the other side. She's got the pendants, as we've seen in the past few episodes. She wants to use the pendant to merge with her other self, which will give her powers of a god. So what we learn here is that she wants everyone to merge with their other self, which obviously is dangerous. And we see Anderson also arrive on this inverse world, and he tries to merge with his other self with this pendant, and he's taken out by Jonathan Kent, or as he's known in this world as John L. Interesting stuff here. So we also see in this episode Lois learns of her husband dying, because as we know, Anderson killed him in a couple of episodes back. And I find it quite interesting that Superman in this world, played superbly as always by Tyler Hodgson. He done such an excellent job in playing both roles, and he made them feel so separate. One thing I've always liked about Superman shows, they know how to find good actors who can play the dual role, not just Superman and Clark Kent, but to play Superman and evil doppelgangers, or doppelgangers in general, of Superman. So we see on this world, Superman and Lois, their marriage is crumbling. Superman's constantly away from home, even though he says that it's part of my job, I'm a hero. And we start to see him slowly break down, and you could see how his face is starting to crack, and his eyes are going all weird, he's all looking hot and sweaty. So you can clearly see that Bizarro is coming out of his body. You can clearly see that he's just crumbling. And Anderson reconciles with Superman, and they agree to work together to try and stop Ali. And this whole episode was just excellent. I've said this before in past reviews that the budget for this show is just off the charts, and it showcased that once again. The way the shots were done, Superman flying, Bizarro, everything about it. It was just excellent. I thought this was very well done. And we also see in this episode, we learn that on this world, John L. and Superman, or Bizarro, if you will, they never really saw eye to eye. John L's doing his own thing, and of course, Bizarro's not happy about that, and that causes them to butt heads. So it was a lot of interesting stuff in this episode. And we also see towards the end of this episode, we saw Ali and her inverse doppelganger merge both pendants together, and Tal-Rho tells Superman, go back to your world, save your family before it's too late. And we see John L. goes back to Earth Prime to try and merge with Jonathan Kent. So there's a lot of stuff going on here. And this is obviously building up to something pretty big, but overall, I really, really enjoyed this episode. I think this was probably one of the best episodes of season 2 so far. So now we know why Bizarro was so concerned about Ali, because of this whole pendant connection. And I thought seeing Lana with superpowers was quite hilarious, because I've always been used to seeing Lois Lane in different forms of media with superpowers. So it's quite interesting to see Lana Lang with powers. And being married to Tal-Rho is something I did not expect. And, seeing Lana Lang with powers reminded me of Lois Lane as Superwoman in the Crime Syndicate group. Kind of reminded me of that a little bit. So that was really good. And also, we see in this episode, we see that John L. is working with Ali. So, you can understand why Lois is dead set against the idea. So it's kind of cool that both Lois's, inverse Lois and Lois, the normal Lois days, they both don't trust Ellie. So there's a few similarities, but I really, really like this episode. So, as I mentioned, at the end, we see Superman heading back to the portal to go after John L. And we see John L. arrives on our world, just like in episode 9. But we see a little bit more, and Lois realizes that this is not her son, and she asks him, what are you doing here? And John L. looks back and sees Jonathan Kent coming towards him and says, I'm here for him. And that's how we end episode 10. Overall, as I said, this was absolutely fantastic. One of the best episodes of season 10. Very impressive with the budget, And what I also liked about this episode, we saw a lot of Superman. I did say in the last review that we didn't really get to see much of Superman because he wasn't really in it, which is fair enough. But this episode definitely made up for that. Saw a lot of Superman, a lot of Bizarro, lots of questions answered, lots more questions asked. But I loved it. I thoroughly loved this episode, and I thought this was absolutely tremendous. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how this is all going to play out in episode 11. So that's going to be it from me. I am going to wrap this up now. What was your thoughts on episode 10? Did you enjoy it? What was your thoughts on Lana Lang in this world with superpowers? Did you think that was cool? And what was your thoughts on Tal-Rho being married to Lana? And also, what did you think about the different flashback points of views of the different characters? Do you think that was well done? And also, with Ali now merged with her inverse self, what do you think this could mean for Earth Prime? And also, what do you think is going to happen with John L. if he merges with Jonathan Kent? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I will see all of you next time. for another edition of the Superman and Lois Season 2 review series, where I am going to be talking about episode 11, which I am very much looking forward to talking about, especially with the way this episode ended. Should be a hell of a ride, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how Ali merging with her inverse self is going to play out. Should be a hell of a ride, and I can't wait to see it. So until next time, take care, everybody, and stay safe. And once again, as always, much appreciated. Thanks for listening.